So generally in Kartik we kind of pick a theme and discuss that over the month. So this time I thought we'll speak about Gajendra Moksha over the month. Coming in the general category of Krishna's protection to his devotees. So today we'll speak a little bit more, we'll start Gajendra Moksha tomorrow. We'll speak a little bit more about this, how do we understand this notion of Krishna protecting or not protecting, apparently, his devotees. So if you look at the Bhagavatam, it is essentially a collection of pastimes that are centered around Krishna protecting or apparently not protecting his devotees. So, what comes to your mind first if you were to talk about Krishna protecting his devotee? Which pastime? Govardhan Leela, very good. Krishna protecting Vaishyasis.
Prahlad.
Prahlad. Krishna protecting Prahlad Maharaj. Arjun and the Pandavas. Krishna protecting Draupadi. So what is what is a common kind of, and there are many others. There is Dhruv Maharaj, there is Indra, there is the Prachetas, many incidents. In fact, you can actually you can study the Bhagavatam from the perspective of Krishna protecting his devotees. But if you would think about this pastimes, what is something that kind of stands out to you? Take the pastime of, let's say, Draupadi. Draupadi is in the Sabha, she's in this role. How does Krishna's protection come in? Surrender. What?
The point when she got surrendered, right?
Not immediately. When she surrendered.
Not immediately. Right. So, who said surrender? Right. So yes, that was the point that I was trying to make. That initially Draupadi, with her two hands, she was trying to hold her dhoti, and then she was turning to different people for help, like first to her husbands, then to Bhishma, Drona, Kripacharya. Nobody was able to do anything. And then finally she raised both her hands up and then started praying to Krishna. And then Krishna's protection came in. If you look at Dhruv Maharaj, he's a small boy, just 5 years. 6 months he performed such severe austerities. In the last month of his austerity, he was not even breathing. He was standing on his one toe of his foot, hands upwards, and not even breathing. Right? Somebody might say that this is a very cruel God, making the child go through so much of suffering. And Krishna could have come sooner than later. Or take the case of the Pandavas. Right? In the 6th canto, Narad Muni makes this point that to Yudhishthira that Krishna was protecting the Pandavas like the eyelids protect the eyes. Very, very close and always there to protect. But then look at the amount of suffering that the Pandavas went through. when they were children, they lost their father. Then they were constantly harassed by Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. Lakshya, most of the time they lived in the jungles out of fear of being persecuted. They ruled for a few years, and after that again, Arjun lost all his powers, and they went to the Himalayas after that. So does it mean that Krishna wants us to suffer before he gives his protection? Like the Pandavas were suffering, or Draupadi was suffering, or so many other, Prahlad Maharaj. So many ways Hiranyakashipu was torturing him, and Krishna was standing by. One might say, why not preempt it? Before Hiranyakashipu tried to do anything with Prahlad Maharaj, Krishna could have killed him then and there only. But he waited for him to torture him over and over again, so many different ways, so many horrific ways, and then he came. So does it mean that Krishna wants his devotees to suffer, or what does the suffering indicate? That
He was waiting for the call.
waiting for the
Call. Like when they will call me, then I'll come.
waiting for the call.
Yeah.
Oh, the call to Krishna.
Yeah.
Okay. What else?
Two aspects, Prabhuji. One is in the case of pure devotees, their own glorification happens. Then they go through multiple trials and tribulations. So in that way, Krishna is glorifying them. When it comes to the pure devotees aspect.
Okay.
For people like us, that is a purification aspect. Like just like a metal kept under fire first for that to soften and mold.
Okay.
That is it.
So let's take. So you said people like us. So let's take that. So let's assume that we want to make progress. So we should expect suffering.
Probably this concept about, that's what Rachel explained, this concept of suffering and happiness is a distorted version of looking at things. I mean, it's actually all for the pleasure of God. So I think, so there is no suffering or pleasure, it's essentially for his happiness. Then to your second question about why they were suffering, I think this is just my understanding. I think what we suffer is based upon our karma, but only if you think of that as a suffering. As long as we surrender to Krishna, at the right moment, Krishna actually helps us and shows the way.
Okay. So we hold on to thought. I think you made two very good points. Let's hold on to that thought. Let's go around and see.
Yeah,
Jeetu?
Hare Krishna. My thinking is that we always think about the God, Krishna in the end. First we try to do everything by ourselves if we can, or by asking other people, right? Like in case of Draupadi, right? She did not call directly to Krishna. First she went ahead looking at her husband, then looking at all the elders. Then finally she said, okay. Then so this is what I see in our life most of the time. We just try to hit some troubles come. We try to troubleshoot ourselves. We will lose our brain to fix it. But then, finally we said, no, we need him, right? So, so that is what, that's my thinking,
So the suffering indicates
It's our
the
own.
time that we haven't surrendered to Krishna.
Yes, exactly. That is the thing.
Which is kind of contrary to what Shrikant is saying, that suffering is a part of surrender to Krishna. It's all good, so to speak. You're saying, right? Suffering and enjoyment, it's all okay. Okay, so we'll keep these 2 points. Let's see what Krishna will say.
It can't be too easy to get Krishna's protection and mercy. Then, in all cases, we will be protected without any growth or understanding.
Okay. Okay. Something difficult means some endeavor.
Krishna's mercy is special, so
Okay. So I think Ramkatha Prabhu's point that if you are going to expect to get Krishna's mercy, you should be ready for suffering.
I'm not saying that.
No, I'm putting words in your mouth. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
I mean, like when somebody goes through the suffering, Krishna's hand will be there in his life, so
Yeah.
he make things in a way that it helps for his own purification. So, because unless we are pure at heart, we can't love truly. So
Okay.
the dust has to be removed. So from that perspective, the purification journey goes on.
The suffering, so you're saying the suffering needs to be there, but it's for a good purpose. It's for the purification.
Yeah.
So you're kind of converging to Shrikant's point that all good. The suffering is good because it results in something good.
Right, ultimately.
Right? Even though the suffering is bad, right? So maybe the suffering is bad, but it's all good because the end justifies the means kind of.
Yeah.
Okay. Prabhu?
Just to restate, Prabhu, I think we don't have to suffer even for an instant if we turn to Krishna. But because we are not learning our lessons, that's why the suffering is there.
Okay. Okay.
But it's not necessary, it's just that we are stubborn. So it's necessary because we are stubborn.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So that's the point I wanted to make, that there's no need for the suffering. Right? There's no need for the suffering. The pastimes are illustrated. Right? So it's not that like we are more advanced than Prahlad Maharaj or Dhruv Maharaj. Obviously not. But the pastimes are illustrated. That till the time, see, when Krishna ended the Bhagavad Gita, you know, he tells Arjun, Masucha, you know, do not fear. But before that Masucha, he said, Mamekam Sharanam. So the Masucha did not come on its own. Mamekam Sharanam, right? That first surrender unto me, and then Abhaydan. Then I will give you fearlessness. So that surrender is something that Krishna wants. We'll speak a little bit about surrender, but I think there was somebody, Padmini Radha, you had a point to make.
Yes, Prabhu. So I was thinking about it, these, the pastimes and the examples of the pastimes, their personality suffering, I look at it as an example for devotees to bolster their faith. Because when you, at least I look at it that way, that, if there are great personalities who were able to turn to the Lord and were able to get the mercy after so much of suffering, and they kept at it. That's why they were able to get the mercy. So it kind of, I look at it as an example for us to continue doing our bit and to continue doing our bit towards developing the faith, that one day we will get that protection from the Lord.
Very good point. And if I were to expand on that, even those who do not surrender to Krishna are still receiving His mercy. I mean, let's assume, take our case, we are not very, little bit surrendered to Krishna. He still gives us sunlight, He still gives us air, He is still there as Paramatma, right? He doesn't say, you're rascal, you're not surrendering, I'm going away, right? He's still there. He is controlling the whole body is controlled by the Paramatma on the desires of Krishna. If you take a little bit of chanting, Krishna becomes a janitor and he starts cleaning out the heart. He takes a menial position over there. So while he does openly ask for surrender, his reciprocation is disproportionately large. It's like if you have to win $1 million lottery ticket, you still have to put $1 to buy the ticket. If you don't put that dollar, you're never going to buy the ticket. Right? At least you need to put the dollar there, and then you can get the million or 100 million, whatever the lottery ticket is. And when Krishna's protection comes, then Krishna's protection is completely biased and prejudiced. Like Krishna, at other places, he says that, samhom sambhuteshu namedvesha stinapara. I don't envy anybody. I don't like, na priya. I'm not favorable. So big words he says that I'm very, very neutral, dispassionate, etc. All that goes out of the window when the devotees. Then Krishna starts singing then Krishna starts saying a whole differently. Right? Shipati bhavati bhar. Right? He says that even if the person apichet sudurachara bhajante mam ananyapa apichet sudurachara, that he does most abominable action, then he is still considered my devotee. Right? That Shipati, very quickly that person will be restored to his position. So that is the nature of reciprocation. Now, let's take this to one level, next level, in terms of why. If Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is fully independent, why does he even want us to surrender before he gives us his mercy? Right? So right now what we are doing is we are taking Krishna's rule and justifying it. That fine, for a penny he gives us $1, little bit of surrender he gives a lot, but why even that little bit? Why doesn't he just say that no surrender, you have full protection? Why?
He really values our love, which cannot be forced. He really values our love, which cannot be forced.
Okay.
Because otherwise it would be like giving us, forcing us to love him, which is not what he wants. It would be against the meaning of love.
Okay. Close. See?
He does not want to take away our free will.
Yeah. Same point is making, very close, but look at something else here.
Like Prabhuji earlier saying about we are stubborn, so he wants always to help us. We are resisting to take his help, so that way we are not getting his help, and our whole surrender aspect is accepting his help. Like so.
Okay. Good point. Yeah.
Well, I think that sometimes when we get things for free, we don't value them as much. Like at least in the secular world, if you get something for free versus when you put in that effort and receive something.
Yeah. I would actually take that to the next level, that we would actually resent it. So if we got Krishna's protection without anything, we would actually resent it. So for those of us who are parents, as your kids grow up, you can see how their attitude to your protection changes. When they're small, then they love it. My mom and dad are taking care of stuff and everything is okay. My mom and dad is okay. They're not doing anything to get it. They're getting the protection just because they're born in the family. That's the only adhikar they have, right? They're getting it for free, so to speak, but they're loving it. But along with that, they have this sense that, okay, whatever mom and dad does is okay. But when they grow older, then the same protection becomes a cause of resentment. So that's our situation as conditioned jivas. Like if we started getting Krishna's protection without us wanting it, then as such we are averse to Krishna. That's why we are avoiding it. You can imagine, Krishna starts sending. So what does Krishna do when he protects? Right? He takes care of trials and tribulations around So he takes care of my trials and tribulations, and then I say that I don't like this person. This person should die. Right, and that person is thinking I should die. So Krishna is like, there was this movie, right, where the person became God for a day.
Bruce Almighty. Bruce Almighty.
Yeah, Bruce Almighty. So he became God, and then he started. He was like, he started getting all these requests. And he said that I'll be a magnanimous God. I'll give everybody the requests. And then suddenly he started getting these requests. Somebody saying this person should suffer, that person is saying that person should suffer, and he's like, I don't know what to do. So that's what will happen if Krishna gives us protection without us wanting to do it. So what is the symptom of us wanting Krishna's protection? Is surrender to Krishna. Because that's when we want something, when we work for it, that's the only way we will appreciate it. That's the only way we can make good use of it. Otherwise, we will always misuse it. So taking a step a little bit back over here, if you look at the structure of the Bhagavatam, right, there are 12 cantos in the Bhagavatam. In the second canto, 10th chapter, very cheap. So in the second canto, 10th chapter, Sukadeva Goswami gives the 10 subjects of the Bhagavatam. Atra sarga visargascha sthanam, poshanam, uthaya, man karu ishanukata, nirod mukti, ashraya. So the first two cantos are like adhikar skanda, right? They give one the right to read the Bhagavatam. So in the cantos, foundational elements are built over here. The Paribhash Sutra is over there, right? Who is Krishna? Etacham sakala pumsha, Krishna astu Bhagavan swayam. Indradi vyaktam lokam vidyante yuge yuge, right? So of all the incarnations, all the divine entities, Etacham sakala, they are all parts and parcels, Krishna astu Bhagavan swayam. There is only one God. So it talks about the position of Krishna, talks about his three aspects: Vadanti tattva tattvavidas tattvam jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwaneti shabdeti. That personality Krishna, he can be perceived in three ways: as impersonal Brahman, as the super soul in the heart, and as Krishna Swayam Bhagavan. And how do you approach Krishna? The Savai Pumsha Parva Karmo Yato Bhakti Radhokside Rahitu Ki Pratiyata Ye Atma Suprasiddhati. Right? Bhakti is the only way to approach Krishna. So these foundational elements, defining who Krishna is, who we are, how to approach Krishna, they give us the adhikar to read the Bhagavatam. Right? Right? When Sutta Goswami says, reading Bhagavatam, does anybody know what is the primary quality that he talks about that one should have to get even like a little bit out of the Bhagavatam?
Not envious.
Yes, very good. So one should be not envious. Because if one is envious of Krishna, then all this will become. So there are many scholars of Bhagavatam. Right? There are college scholars, there are people who do PhD in the Bhagavatam, and they just look at it as mythology. They just look at it as fantastic tales that are told to entertain people. Why? Because they're intrinsically envious to Krishna. So So right when Sutta Goswami starts speaking the Bhagavatam, Pujita Kehta wo Nirmatsaranam. Right? He says Nirmatsaranam. Matsar is envy. Nirmatsaranam is without envy. At least theoretically give up envy. So when Bhagavad Gita is spoken, Prabhupada says at least theoretically accept Krishna as God. Then you will get something out of Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavatam, Sutta Goswami says, at least suspend your envy and then read the Bhagavatam. Then from the third canto onwards, then each of the subject matter is spoken. Sarga is the primary creation, which is creation by Mahavishnu, the Lord. That is spoken of in the third canto. Then Visarga is the secondary creation done by Brahma. And the secondary creation is continuous. It's like it's being done by us also. For those who are children, they are also part of the secondary creation. Right? So that is spoken of in the fourth character, fourth canto. So one of the topics is Poshan. Poshan is protection by Krishna. So the protection by Krishna, this comes in the sixth canto. And there, if you look at the pastimes in the sixth canto, these are all personalities that made a mistake and they were restored by the mercy of Krishna. So what's the first pastime that comes in the sixth canto? The Ajamil pastime. Right? Ajamil was good, nice Brahman, nice wife, living with his parents, walking down the forest, and he sees a Shudra with a prostitute in amorous embrace, and that was not his fault. His fault was then he went forward and he looked back again. That was his fault, and because you know it's a material nature. You can see anything. You can't close your eyes and walk. But then he was so attracted by it that he looked at it again. And then because of that looking, the thinking, feeling, willing happened. And because of that looking, then he went home and he started thinking about it. And then when he started thinking about it, then ultimately he willed. He left his wife and he got the prostitute. And that was his downfall. For 80, till the time that he was 88 years of age, that's how he lived with the prostitute. Right? And then he chanted Krishna's name as Narayan at the time of dying. Krishna immediately came to protect him. Then, what is the second fall down? In the sixth canto, is Indra. So in the sixth canto, Indra becomes a serial killer. So he, especially of his gurus, right? So first he insults Brihaspati. Brihaspati comes and Indra is sitting there watching dance and all that, and he says, "Don't worry about Brihaspati." Right? Doesn't even look at him, doesn't give him obeisances. Brihaspati gets up and leaves. And then Brihaspati disappears. Indra is without a guru. So he gets Vishwarup as his spiritual master. And then later on he's unhappy with Vishwarup, so he cuts off his head. So now he's further contaminated by the sense. So Vishwarup's father, Tvashta, he creates Vritrasur. And then Indra kills Vritrasur, Brahman, son of a Brahman, further contaminated there. But in the end all good, because finally Krishna still rescues him. And the third personality is our Chitraketu. And Chitraketu offended Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva was sitting with Parvati in his lap, and he started laughing, saying that this is Mahadev. Right? He started laughing, and that's where the acharyas say that Lord Lord Shiva especially appreciates Parvati Devi because of her service to Krishna. And she has a very difficult service of keeping the conditioned souls away from Krishna. For a devotee, it's a very difficult service. All the devotees like to preach, they like to take people to Krishna, chant Hare Krishna, do some offering. That's the nature of devotees, right? And Parvati Devi, very, very exalted devotee. That's a natural tendency that somehow Jiva should go back. Krishna said, but I have a more difficult service. I keep them away from me. And she is so dedicated to Krishna, she said, okay, I will do it for you. Right? And Lord Shiva is so appreciative of Parvati Devi's service that he holds her in very, very high regard. So actually, the Gauri Shankar, they're considered to be even more. So in a lot of these Yagyas, etc. and marriages, Gauri Shankar are kept at a higher level than Radha Krishna in terms of how ideal couple, in terms of the being an ideal couple. Krishna has many girlfriends, so not the most ideal, at least from material perspective. So Chitraketu Vaishnava Prat, the Vaishnava Prat he went through, but then even he was rescued. Right? He took birth as Vitrasur in Traketim, he went back to Godhead. So even he was rescued. So the essence of Krishna's protection is our ability to surrender unto him, notwithstanding where we are. Like, we should never think that Krishna is up there, we are over here. It's very difficult for us to get Krishna protection. Because every moment we are under Krishna's protection. Radha Govind Maharaj makes this point that at home when you go and you switch on the light, then the meter starts running. $1, $2 you have to pay. In the morning you go out, there is a huge bulb in the sky, you don't have to pay any money for it. Completely free of cost. And the air and the water, all utilities are included. Right? Even the rent is free. So Krishna's protection is already free. But his special protection that he extends is when we begin to display the symptoms of surrender. So I talk about the 6 aspects of surrender and then end over there because we have to do Damodar Ashtaka after that. So this is by Rupa Goswami. He breaks down surrender into 6 components of increasing levels of realization. So, Anukulasya Sankalpa, which means that Sankalpa means make a determination to do things that are favorable to one's Krishna consciousness. Then, Pratikulasya Varjana. Do not do things that are not favorable. The example of always remembering Krishna and never forgetting Krishna. One is Anukul, remembering Krishna, one is Pratikul, forget. So Pratikul Varjana, then Anukul Sankalpa. Then Rakshashyati Vyashva, that faith in Lord's protection. So this is important because it is easy to have faith in Lord's protection when things are going okay. But really speaking, the faith shines when things are not going okay. And Brahma actually, he calls it out in his prayers. He says, Tatenu kampam susumikshamam bhunjane vatma. So he says that one who patiently tolerates all kinds of adversities, expecting the Lord's mercy, has the right to be liberated. So Krishna's protection is seen in all. So it's not that one says that my adverse circumstances are being bought by Krishna. That's not going to happen for us. We're not at that level, fortunately. Krishna may put Arjuna into illusion so that he can speak Bhagavad Gita. But Arjuna is a pure devotee, right? He might put Pandavas into trials and tribulations. They're pure devotees. So they have already signed the contract with Krishna. You can use us in whichever way you want. Right? And Krishna is fully executing on that contract. We haven't signed a contract with Krishna, not yet. Right? So Krishna is not going to put us through trials and tribulations just to make an example. Like, look, Bhayahari is suffering, all of you guys see, right? He's not going to do it. Hopefully not. So all the suffering that we are getting, what's the source of that suffering? Us. Right? There's only one cause of our both happiness and suffering. Only one cause, us. We did something good, so we are enjoying. We did something bad, we are suffering. Now we can go to Krishna and say that maybe we made a mistake, but can you do something about the suffering? That's within our rights. That's why it says akama sarva kamam hi moksha kamudavini tivrena bhakti yogena. That akam, without desires, sarva kam, full of desires, moksha kam, desiring liberation, like tivrena bhakti yogena. That in all situations go to Krishna. Okay? So we can go to Krishna sarva kam, saying, Krishna, take care of this. I have a blister in my foot, take care of it. I need more money, take care of it. There is absolutely no harm in it. The harm is if Krishna does not do it, blaming Krishna. That's the harm. Or even losing faith in Krishna is the harm. Right? Blaming is also okay. Like, Krishna, you could have done this. You could have, you're a big shot. This is a small thing for you. You could have done that. Right? There's no harm in that. But losing faith because of that how could this happen to me? And because of that, I have lost faith in Krishna. That is pratikya. That is a sign of not surrender to Krishna. That is a sign of turning your back to Krishna. The fourth is Guptrate Varna, that accepting the Lord as one's maintainer. Atma Nikshepa is complete self-surrender, and Karpanyam is humility. The sixth one runs across the five. So all the fives are on a platform of humility. Right? So when we accept Krishna's protection, we accept it with humility. Right? So don't say that, I'm a really great devotee, so I should get Krishna's protection. But all of it is with Karpanya, with humility. So in the month of Kartik, Krishna's protection is stronger because it's his favorite month. Right? It's favorite month because it is Radharani's star sign. Kritika, it is Radharani's star sign. So this month is favorite of Krishna, which means Krishna's mercy is more abundantly available. How can we leverage that mercy? If you take any vows in the month of Kartik, you will find it much easier to execute on them than any other time of the month. Right? So this is something that you can experience yourself. That any vows that you take in the month of Kartik, so people generally say, take some vows for Kartik. Right? So one reason is that because Krishna's mercy is in the month of Kartik, he also says that the ROI on that on that vow is much higher. Right? If you were getting a return of 10, you will get a return of 10,000 in the month of Kartik. That's one part of it. But the more important part of it is Krishna makes it easier for you to do that vrata. This is something that you can experience yourself. Take a vow that is not in your comfort zone, that you think that maybe I may not be able to do it, and see how easily you will be able to do it, and also see that when Kartik finishes, the same vow becomes difficult. Right? So you can experientially touch the mercy of Krishna in the month of Kartik. That's what makes this month so special. Okay, so I'll stop there. Any concluding thoughts? Or
Yeah, I just a question. I hear quite often this comment about going back to Godhead. What does that mean? How should we understand that comment? What does going back to Godhead means?
It's a very good question. Prabhupada will often ask this question, what does going back to Godhead means? That there will be like a bright light and suddenly things will change. Yeah, may not. But Prabhupada's answer was classic. He said that not being with Krishna means that you are seeing things separate from Krishna. And being with Krishna means that you are seeing everything in connection with Krishna. So he said, in this very moment, in this very body, you can go back to Godhead. What changes? That instead of seeing yourself as the enjoyer, you are now seeing Krishna as the enjoyer. Instead of seeing this duality of I and mine and me, etc., now you are seeing everything in relation to Krishna. That is going back to Godhead. Now, there is a more conventional understanding also. Going back to Godhead means going back to the spiritual world. So as I mentioned that in the third canto Sarga, there is also a description of creation as a whole, where it says that three parts of the creation is the spiritual world, where there is the conspicuous absence of time. And there is the absence of envy. And everybody is eternal there. And 1/4, एक part is the material world, which is characterized by Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, birth, death, disease, old age. So, for the souls who desire, they go back to the spiritual world. They, depending on who the Ishtadev is, if they are worshipping Lord Narayan, they go to Vaikuntha. If they worship Krishna, they go to Krishna Mukha. So the latitude of your free will increases enormously. Right now, even if we want, we can't do much. But once you're liberated, literally speaking, the sky's the limit.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the very beautiful class. Thank you. I have two questions, Prabhuji. First one is, currently, we are hankering for Krishna's reciprocation. So, maybe that is the reason this question coming up is like, why would we resent, that part, when Krishna liberally helps us reciprocate, why would we resent that part that was not so clear in my mind? Or how would we resent? Because probably if we resent means already we will be doing some resentment to an extent. So that part, if you can elaborate, that would be
good question. So why would we resent Krishna's protection? So the analogy is that when the parents are trying to control they're protecting the child, there is a lot of no also. Don't eat too much sweets, don't run across the road, don't put your hand in the fire, right? And the child is like, all that my parents are saying is no, right? So, Krishna's protection manifests in the soul acting according to his intrinsic nature. In a conditioned situation, we act contrary to the soul's intrinsic nature. So, that is where Krishna's protection will appear. That don't be proud, be humble. Don't be lusty. That will be Krishna's protection. And where will the resentment come? No. I want
was just thinking of how Lou was once saying something good happened, and I said, "Oh, that's Krishna's mercy." And Lou was like, "You're right. Whenever something goes wrong, then it's my fault. It's my bad karma. When something is good, then it's Krishna's mercy." So what does a parent do in such a thing? I was like, I'm just being grateful to Krishna. It just something nice has happened. So, don't you think we can say, "Oh, thanks"? It could have been gone the other way also. So then, where does the good karma part come in?
It's a good point. The idea is that when something good happens, it's Krishna's mercy. When something bad happens, it's Krishna's mercy. That we feel more democratic about it.
I didn't say that.
Yeah.
We usually see it like, it's our, bad karma. Pay for it.
Yeah.
So it's slightly technical, but you spoke about Gauri and Shiva. And so I was just wondering, we hear, so the glance of Krishna upon the material nature is Lord Shiva. We hear that, and I guess Parvati is included in that. And then we have Durga Devi, and then we have Maya, Mahamaya, the material energy, that which is not. So I was wondering, is there any difference between Parvati, Durga, and Mahamaya? Because if that which is not, clearly these two are personalities. So what is the connection between, is there any difference between these three?
It's explained in the third canto, I think, in this conversation between Maitreya and Vidura. And it is technical. So the glance of Mahavishnu is Shambhu. And Rama Devi, she expands into Mahamaya, into Vishnu. So as they expand successively, Mahavishnu, Durga, Vishnu, and Shuddhakshay, Vishnu, Lord Shiva also expands along with them. And so does his consort expand along with them. So Durga Devi is kind of the last expansion within the universe. She appears as you know, first she appears as Sati, and then when she gives up her body, she takes birth again as the son of Himavan, the daughter of Himavan, as Durga Devi. Her role also changes to some extent as the successive expansions happen. In Brahma Samhita, it is actually explained how the role changes to some extent. Not unsurprisingly, she becomes more and more anchored in a role of keeping the jivas bewildered. And that becomes more of a role. Initially, she comes more, the conversion of from Pradhan to Mahatattva. The agitation is caused by the addition of the modes of material nature, which is Durga Devi, and time. And so she's assisting in the creation at that time. But later on, her role becomes more and more in terms of covering the jivas. Okay, so we'll handle the
Second question, can I ask?
yeah, sure, go ahead.
Prabhuji, this is with respect to the resolutions. Like you are saying, Kartik is no comparison with other months in terms of we are following your resolutions too.
Yeah.
But still, when we start our resolutions, maybe over a period, it feels like, while starting itself we accept the defeat, kind of. Like whatever is the vow, it is always partially successful. Whichever is the time I'm saying. Like even other ones, I mean. We plan these things we study or these things we learn, and we are able to only partially achieve what we targeted. I try to be reasonable with what I plan also, but at the same time, so what things, because already accepting failure itself is a bigger failure. So how should we, what things one need to keep in mind that so that his resolutions in life?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the first part which you already said is being reasonable. Take reasonable was like no, I chant 64 rounds every day. Not so take I chant another 4 rounds a day. Take a reasonable vow. Be sincere in the execution, but the most important thing is that there is no failure in, even if you don't do it, there is no failure. The sincerity is in the effort. There's really no failure. It's okay for us to think that we can do better. No, we should do better. That's okay. But but from Krishna's perspective, the fact that we're trying, so there is this pastime, right, where Kardamuni, he is performing austerities on the banks of Bindu Sarovar, right? And for 10,000 years he performed, Krishna comes, and then there is a Prabhupada gives a little bit of a description of the origin of Bindu Sarovar, that on the banks of Bindu Sarovar, Krishna once saw so many sages sitting and trying in different ways to meditate, some succeeding, some not succeeding, and his heart just went out to them, and a drop of his tear fell into that. That's why it became so special for Bindu Sarovar, like a drop of his tear. So Krishna was not saying that this person is great because he's doing all of this and this person is not there. He just looked at how they were all sincerely trying, and that opened his heart. Right? So the main currency that we have to offer Krishna is our sincere effort. Right? We'll succeed, we'll not succeed, so depending on so many circumstances. Work becomes busy, sometimes life becomes busy, mind takes over, so many things can happen. But what we have to offer Krishna is that is our sincerity. That will more often than not, that will see us through.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Shri Prabhupada ki jai.